If you knew that this coming week would be your last week, who would you want to spend it with? What would you want people to see in you? What would you want them to remember? For Jesus, his final week isn't about escape. It's one of those moments where he shows us who God really is. He enters Jerusalem on a donkey, the long-promised humble king. Crowds line the road shouting, "Hosanna!" the cry of a people longing to be saved. He weeps over the city that will reject him. He walks into the temple and turns over the tables, not in rage but in grief, because the house of prayer has become a market of control. He tells stories about vineyards and sons, about love spurned and love persisting. He warns, he teaches, he laments. And through it all, the tension builds, the leaders plot. Yet through it all, Jesus doesn't retreat. And finally, he gathers with his friends for one last meal. The crowds are gone. The noise outside fades. Now it's only Jesus and the people he loves the most. Close your eyes for a second and imagine yourself in the scene. The meal has begun. The room is dimly lit. The smell of bread, of roast lamb and wine fills the air. The disciples don't yet understand how heavy this night is going to become. And then Jesus speaks. "I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer." Note that he doesn't say, "I must eat this meal." He says, "I deeply desire." This is the language of love that longs to give itself away. I should say you're welcome to open your eyes in case you're falling asleep quietly in the corner. It's not the language of obligation, it's the language of yearning. Here around a simple table, the longing of God is spoken out loud. The God who made the world longs to sit at a table with his friends, even knowing that one of them is going to betray him. This is where what we call the passion begins, not in violence or accusation, but in love freely given. Because from the very beginning, desire has been part of the story. In Hebrew, that word is teshukah, and it only appears 3 times in the Old Testament. The first time it appears is in Genesis 3, when God speaks to Eve after the fall. He tells her that her desire will be for her husband, but that her husband will rule over her. Something in human longing has been damaged. Love, once marked by trust, now becomes mixed with control and struggle. Then, just a little bit later in Genesis 4, the same word appears again. This time, it's God warning Cain that sin's desire is for him, that sin wants to have him. Here, teshukah isn't about love at all, but it's about domination. Desire has turned dangerous. What was meant to draw people towards life and relationship now pulls them towards possession and power. But thankfully, Scripture doesn't leave desire there. It gives us a different, redeemed picture. And so I'm going to turn now to a book which, at first glance, doesn't seem to have much to do with Maundy Thursday or Good Friday. The Song of Solomon. Shir Hashirim, the Song of Songs. It's the most intimate book in the Bible. It's a love poem that's sensual, earthy, and embodied. But that's okay, because the Bible isn't afraid of passion. It teaches us that true love is wholehearted and it's lived in real bodies. But from the early writers like Origen to Hildegard of Bingen to Bernard of Clairvaux, Christians have long heard in this poem something deeper. the music of divine love, the covenant desire of God that pursues, that suffers, and that redeems. The passion between the lovers in the song becomes a way of speaking about Christ's love for his people, the bridegroom and the bride, Jesus and his church. It's the story of a God whose love does not stay distant, but draws near, longing for union and renewal. And the song gives us language for this redeemed desire. I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine. I am my beloved's, and his desire is for me. Here we see this word teshaka again, but it's not grasping. It's not controlling. It's faithful, mutual, self-giving love. It's desire made whole. Now, when Jesus says, I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you, the New Testament is speaking in Greek. The word is epithemia. The language has changed, but the reality is the same. Human longing filled now with divine meaning. Desire becomes something beautiful again, a longing that gives itself for others instead of taking for itself. From that table, Jesus walks out into the night to a garden. It's a different garden than Eden, but Jesus faces the same kind of choice. Jesus said to his friends, I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake. He falls to the ground and prays, Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I want, but what you want. In that first garden, the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve stood before a tree and they chose their own way. God had given them everything, but they wanted more. They reached out for the fruit that God had forbidden, believing the serpent's lie that they could be like God. And in that act, they said, and humanity still says, not your will, God, but mine. But here in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus kneels and prays the words that Adam and Eve either couldn't or didn't. Not my will, but yours. He could have called angels, he could have chosen safety, but he doesn't. His longing for the Father's will is stronger than his fear of suffering. In him, desire is not denied. It's made holy. It becomes love that trusts when everything else is dark. From that prayer in Gethsemane, Jesus is arrested and taken away. He's questioned through the night, accused by the leaders, and handed over to Pilate. Though Pilate finds no guilt in him, he gives in to the pressure of the crowd. The same people who once shouted, Hosanna, now cry, crucify him. Jesus is led out to Golgotha, the place of the skull. The soldiers nail him to the cross and raise him up between two criminals. Above his head, they hang that sign, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. Around him, people mock him and insult him. And yet, even there, Jesus prays, Father, forgive them. They do not know what they're doing. At the cross, the love of God stands firm in the face of everything that opposes it. This is where the promises of Scripture converge, the place where divine love endures every wound and still does not let go. In the Song of Solomon, we read those words that we hear read so often at weddings. Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm. For love is strong as death, passion fierce as the grave. Its flashes are flashes of fire, a raging flame. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can floods drown it. If one offered for love all the wealth of one's house, it would be utterly scorned. That's what we see at Calvary. Love as strong as death, passion fierce as the grave. At the cross, the covenant is sealed. God gives himself completely for the world, for us. And when the women come to the tomb on the third day and hear their names spoken by the risen Jesus, they discover that the song's promise is true. Many waters cannot quench love. The love of God has overcome death itself. Every follower of Jesus will face moments when love feels too costly. When fear whispers, save yourself. When pride says, you deserve better. When faith asks more than we can think to give. Dying to self doesn't mean rejecting who we are. It means surrendering our desires to be reshaped by God's. The human in us continues to cry, not your will, God, but mine. But the Spirit transforms us and teaches us to say, not my will, but yours. In Jesus, we see what redeemed desire looks like. He longs for the Father, not my will, but yours. And he longs for us, stretching out his arms on the cross to bring us home. His love gives everything and holds nothing back. And now that same Spirit awakens that longing in us. The God who desires us teaches us to desire him in return. To love what he loves, to seek what he seeks, to want his will more than our own comfort. The bride in Song of Solomon once said, upon my bed at night I sought him whom my soul loves. I sought him but found him not. I called him but he gave no answer. I will rise now and go about the city, in the streets and in the squares. I will seek him whom my soul loves. That is a longing that refuses to sleep. A love that searches in the darkness to find the beloved. And that holy persistence is given to us as well if we choose it. We watch and pray. We stay with Jesus. We let his surrendered desire shape our own. And as we do, the life that rose in the garden tomb begins to rise in us too. The cross is not where love ends. It's where love wins. Jesus carried everything that separated us from God. And still he continues to say to us, I have eagerly desired to eat the meal with you. So later in the service, when you come to receive Eucharist, come knowing this. You are desired. You are wanted. You are loved with a love stronger than death. So bring your fear, bring your resistance, and offer them into the hands of God. And as you take the bread and wine, remember this is the love that went through death for you. And this is the life that now lives in you.